Hi, it's Jordan Teen 1, and in this tutorial I'm going to show you how to make this super adorable minion sleeve or cozy for your cups. So I have it shown on a 24-ounce cup and then also a 20-ounce cup, so the minion pattern is the same. So it pretty much fits any standard size cup, but you can easily alter it. So what you would do is just to chain 35 and then measure it around the base of your cup, and then you can adjust it larger or smaller depending on the size that you need. So the one that I'm going to show you in the tutorial today is the one on the right. I used the navy blue bands and then the dark gray for around the eye, and then I have my tiny little buttons. Now for this one I used the metallic silver for around the eye. I used the lighter blue bands, and then I just used 2 black rubber bands for my overall buttons. And of course, if you wanted to make a girl, you could always change this color to pink or purple or some kind of a girly color. And if you wanted to, you could add some kind of hair. You could take some black rubber bands and cut them and just tie them across the top. I decided not to do that, but I think that would be cute as well. So there's a lot of different ways you can customize them, but I'm super happy with the way that these turned out, and I hope that everyone else is too. To make your Minion Cup Cozy, you're going to need a hook of some sort. So I'm going to be using the Rainbow Loom metal hook, and then I have a twist tie that I'm going to be using to start my magic ring. So that's optional, but it is helpful. And then you're going to need a few clips or stitch markers. And then for the overall buttons, you can use either beads or buttons or rubber bands. So here I'm showing 2 beads, but in the actual tutorial I use these little tiny buttons that are about 8 millimeters. And then as far as your band counts go, you'll need 193 blue, 200 black, 414 yellow, 28 white, and 41 gray. I'm going to begin by making a chain of 15. So the first 12 are going to be blue, and then the next 3 will be black. And then I'll put a clip-on at the end. So I'm going to take my first band and I want to double this. So just twist and put it back on. That's going to give you your 2 loops. And then one at a time, you're just going to pull through and get the other end back on. So if you pull down on the chain that you're forming, it is going to help to open up those loops, and that will prevent your hook from getting hung up. So the actual total chain count when we're done is going to be 35. So this is actually just the beginning. But I like to do it this way because when I form the feet, I can link that loose band back into the bottom row here. So I have my 3 black. And that's just going to make it a little bit easier that you don't have any other loose bands to deal with. Now I'm taking my clip, and I just want to make sure I get it on both of those loops. Next we're going to form the first foot, so I have 11 black bands. And I have them laid out. The first 3 are going to be an increase in each of the 3 chains, so there's 2 in each pile, and then 1 single crochet in each of the stitches coming back. So here's our chain, and we've been pulling one band through the other, and that's what I'm calling the top and the bottom. So you have your clip here, and what we're actually going to be going in through this time is going to be the side. So from front to back here, I'm going to push through the end chain, and that's going to get 2 single crochet. So you're just pulling through, getting the other end back on. You have 2 loops, one through the other. And then back through that same chain, make sure you're getting under both loops. You're going to pull through, back on, you have 3 loops this time, 1 through the other 2. So now over to the left here to the next chain, you're going to do 1, and then back through for your increase, and then one more time here, you're doing 1, back through for your second. So now we're going to turn this over, so your hook is on the right, but now we had been going through this side, so to keep the look consistent we have to continue to go in through the same side. So this time I'm pushing from back to front. You can see I have this band coming up through here. I'm going to go through that same stitch here. It's those 2 loops here from back to front. We have 1, and then moving over to the next. I know it might feel a little bit awkward going in from back to front. We're just doing 1 in each. So that's 3, 4, and then your last one here. And then what you're going to do is get the chain back on your hook. So you should have the 2 loops here. You're just going to push through each, and that's going to leave you with the 3 loops on your hook. In the next part we're going to chain 8, so I have 5 blue and 3 black. So you're taking your first blue, and it's going to pull through all 3 of these black loops, and then you can remove your clip, and we're going to chain 4 more blue. This is just going to be the space that's in between the feet. And then you should have 3 black. We're just going to continue on here. And then once again you want to take your clip and just make sure that it goes around both of these loops. Next we'll make the second foot, and so it's the same pattern as the first. We have 11 black bands. So here's what we've made so far. You want to make sure that the foot is facing upward, and then you're going to again go in through the side, so just smooth this out, make sure it's nice and straight. Should have your clip over here on the right, and you want to make sure that you're going in from the side, so straight through front to back. We're doing that increase to start. Clip is sort of going in the way here, so there's 1 and 2. Moving over, we have 2 in the next. So if you've made either my Mickey or my Minnie cozy, this is made the same way. And then my increase for the next. And then again we're going to turn our work. Your hook is over to the right, and now this time you have to go in through from the back. So in the very end one here under both loops, and it's 1 in each, and there's going to be a total of 5. So here's my last one. And then once again, you have your 2 loops on your clip, and you want to push through each, and that's going to leave you with your 3 loops on your hook. To finish off our chain, we have 12 blue bands. So you're taking your first blue and it's pulling through all three of the black. And then again you can remove your clip and you're just going to continue doing your chain. So we're actually going to chain 11, and then in that 12th one I'll show you we're going to connect the other end because we need to form that circle. So that was 11, and now I'm going to hold off on this last one, and what I'm going to do is take my chain, make sure that it's completely smooth and straight. It's sort of easier with the feet because you can tell that they should be facing front here. And then when you get down here to the end, this is where it's most important to just make sure this is nice and straight. And what you're going to do is, what I like to do is take the one end off, the one loop, hold it in my fingers, and I'm going to slide the two loops back on here from the other end. That's the first band that we doubled, and then put the other end back on. So that just sandwiches the one in between. And then with our very last one I'm pulling through, and then one end through the other. And I'm going to add my clip, and then our chain is complete. In rows 2 and 3, you're going to do 1 single crochet into each stitch, so I have 35 bands in each pile. So I'll do the first row with you, and then I'll let you do the second one on your own since it's just repeating. So you should have 1 band on your hook, and you did go through this first chain here, but we will go through that once again. So you want to start from your foot here and just smooth this out. You want to make sure your feet are facing down, and you're just going to smooth this chain out. And we are going to be going through from the side, but with this very first one it's kind of squeezed flat, so we're just going to go through that. It sort of has to twist a little bit. So that's going to be your first single crochet, and then for all the rest you want to make sure again that this is nice and straight, and then you're going through from the side. So you can see if it's coming up through, that's the top and bottom. We want to push through the side, the same way that we did for finishing the feet, you're going to do for this part of the chain. So I like to just run my fingers along, and that way I know that it's nice and straight, and I'm doing 1 in each. So this part can be a little bit difficult just because of the whole twisting factor, and after you get this row done you won't have to worry about that. It's going to stay nice and straight for you. So you know once you get up to your first foot here, it should be pointing straight down. And then you're going to go in the 3 black chains that are on the top of your foot. And then again, keep smoothing this out. So we have our 5 chains that were in the middle. That just jumped right on my hook for me. It's helping me out there a little bit. Sure I couldn't do that again if I tried. And then again here you have your second foot. So you're going into each of these 3 black chains. And don't worry if you feel like what you're forming is getting kind of bunched up, because that definitely does tend to happen at first. But once you get a couple rows on, it'll hold its shape for you. So we're almost back to the beginning. And with your very last band, that's always going to go under where your clip is. So if you've counted out your bands correctly, it should work out perfectly. So here I am. Let me just straighten this out here. I have where my clip is, and it's only on one loop, but you want to make sure that you're going under both. So you're pushing through both of those loops and doing that single crochet. And then just move your clip, and you can straighten this out. And then, as I said, I'm going to let you do the next row on your own. So it's just one single crochet in each. So you can pause now, and I will see you back here in a minute. In row 4, we're still using 35 bands, and we're doing one single crochet into each stitch. The difference here is that we're going to start to use some yellow for the minion body. So we're going to start with 4 blue, and then 8 yellow, 9 blue, 8 more yellow, and then we're ending on 6 blue. So the first 4 are blue here, and you should be pretty familiar with the single crochet by now, if you weren't already. And then we're going to switch to yellow for the side of the body. So when you do change colors, you need to do a slip stitch, and all that is you pull through the stitch, but you also pull through the other band on your hook, get the other end back on, so you're just going to be left with the 2 yellow, and then one pulls through the other. And then we have 7 more yellow here. So the purpose of doing a slip stitch is just so you don't see that color bleed into the next section. It hides it. But when you do slip stitches, it does create just a little bit of confusion for the next row, because sometimes it looks like a true stitch, but it really isn't. And it's not too difficult. I'll explain that when we get to it. I'll show you what I'm talking about. So here's my 8th yellow, and then I'm going to switch to blue. So again, I need to do another slip stitch. So pull through the stitch, pull through the other piece, so you get all of the yellow off your hook, and then one through the other. So we have 8 more blue, and I know that my piece here is going to start to mess up my bands. I'm trying to sort of keep it up and out of the way, but inevitably it's going to knock them out of place. So I apologize for that. When I really get the piece built and really big, then it's next to impossible to lay the bands out and not have them get all messed up. So this is my 9th blue, and then I'm switching back to yellow. So again, another slip stitch, So 7 more yellow, and then this is coming around the other side of the body. It's where you can see the yellow through the overalls. So I have my 8th yellow, and then I'm going to do my slip stitch again. So just pull through everything, and then I should have 5 more blue, and that should take me back to my clip. So I'm at my last one, and just move this clip. And again, you can smooth this out. Should start to be holding its shape pretty well. In row 5, we're going to do 2 increases, so your band count is going to be 37. So it's going to start with 3 blue, and then you're going to do 3 yellow, and then on that 7th stitch you're doing an increase in the yellow. You're going to continue on with 4 more yellow, and then we're going to do 9 blue, 4 more yellow, and then in the next stitch you're going to do your 2nd increase, and then 3 more yellow, followed by 7 blue. So we're starting with our 3 blue, and then we're going to do 3 yellow. So we're going to start to encounter the slip stitches that we did on the previous row, and I'll show you what I was talking about. The next blue stitch is just a regular stitch, because that's before we changed color, but we are going to do a slip stitch here, so we're going to go through everything and one through the other. Now here's where we changed colors on the previous row, and it may look like this part here is your first stitch, but if you look to the side you can see that that was just created from doing our slip stitch, and really it's this next part over that's the true stitch. So ignore this little half stitch and go under the next one. That's the true stitch. And we're going to do 2 more yellow. So 1, and then in the next one just 1. And then that's going to bring us over to our 7th stitch. And here's where we're going to do our increase. So that's just 2 in the same stitch. So I'm going back through a second time for my increase. And then I have 4 more yellow to do. And then we're going to switch to blue. So the stitch I'm going under is actually yellow, but I'm changing to blue here. So I'm pulling through everything, one through the other. And now again, on the previous row, this is where we changed. So ignore this first little blue, go under to the next part over. And we should have 8 more blue to do here. So this is the front, the little bib overall part. So I have one more blue, and now the stitch I'm going under is blue, but I'm changing to yellow. So do your slip stitch, and again ignore this first part. It's where we changed on the last row. And now we have 3 more yellow before our increase. And now this is our next stitch, which is the 23rd from the start. We're doing our increase. And then we have 3 yellow. And then we're changing to blue for the end. So you're going under a yellow stitch, but we're switching to blue, so do your slip stitch. And now on the previous row, ignore the first little part. And that should leave us with 6 stitches left. So the tricky thing about changing colors is that when you do each row, it shifts over one, so you kind of have to adjust your placement. It's never going to line up 100% straight up and down, but you just do your best here. So here's my last one, move my clip. And then, as I said, you can see it's not going to be exactly straight up and down. It's either going to be a little bit before or a little bit after. It won't go in a straight line, but you just have to do your adjustment. I accounted for that when I was designing the pattern. Row 6 is going to be our last row of mixing yellow and blue. So I have a total of 37 bands. We're starting with 3 blue, and then 9 yellow, 9 blue, back to 9 yellow, and then ending on 7 blue. So other than changing colors, this should be pretty straightforward. We're doing 1 single crochet into each stitch. Again, you do have to worry about the slip stitches on the previous row. So I have my blue here, and this time they are lining up here, a blue under a blue. Next, ignore this first part of the yellow, go into the next. And I almost forgot to do my slip stitch, so pull through everything, one through the other. And then I have the remaining 8 here of yellow. And as I said, these are lining up this time. On the previous row they were not. It's all about that shifting of the rows. So I have 2 yellow here left. And then again, ignore the first part of the blue. Go in the true stitch, and we are changing to blue. So do your slip stitch. And then we have 8 more blue. Trying very hard to keep this section up so it's not scattering my whole bands about. So we have 2 blue left. And now again, skip this little part of the yellow, and we are switching to yellow. So that slip stitch, and then the remaining 8 yellow, so here's my last yellow. And then finally ignore the first blue, and we are changing to blue, so pull through everything, and then that should leave 6 blue until the end. So here's my last one. So we're starting to get a good portion of it done here. In row 7, you're going to need 37 bands, and this time they are going to be all blue. So I am going to add the little buttons. So if you have beads or buttons, or you just want to use black rubber bands, you can do that in this row. And I'm doing that on stitch 12 and stitch 21. So I've just laid out the beginning, and I have the rest here in a pile. So it's the same as always here, just doing 1 in each. We will be doing some increases in some later rows. Again, we do have the slip stitches to worry about, so you just do your last one before the color change, and then when the color change happens, just ignore the first and jump right into the second. So it's not super difficult, you just have to get used to what to look for and just make a mental note anytime there's a color change in a previous row to just be careful when you get to that part. So I have one more yellow here I'm going to go under, and that's where I'm going to add my little button. So you can see I've already put the rubber band through. I used a needle and thread, so I'm just pulling under, just doing it the same way I would normally do, and then that's just going to attach the little button. So skipping the little blue part here, and I'm just going to continue around the front of the overalls. So now in my last blue here, I'm going to do the next bead, and then skipping the yellow, and you can double check here if you think the placement looks good. So I think it does. And then we have one more slip stitch to worry about when we change from yellow back to blue here. So here it is, we have our yellow to go under, and then skip this little first blue part, and then we should be home free. So here's my last one. In row 8, you'll need 37 yellow. It's 1 single crochet into each stitch. So I'm going to go ahead and let you do this one on your own. You're just going to have to remember to begin with a slip stitch since we're changing color. So you can pause here and I'll see you back here shortly. In row 9, we're going to do a little bit more of an increase. So it's going to be a total of 39 bands, all yellow. And the increases are going to happen on stitch number 6 and again on stitch number 25. So again, just at the very beginning here, ignore the first since that was a slip stitch, and we're going to do 5 single crochet, and then in that 6th stitch is where we're going to do our increase. So it should be right about at the side of our minion. Tried to space these out so they would be basically on the side, so you wouldn't notice them on the front. And then there's actually going to be 18 stitches in between here until we do our next increase. So let me just go ahead and count those out with you. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18. And then we're going to do our next increase. So that's 2 in the same stitch there. And then that should leave us with 12 to get back to the start. So at the end of this row, our stitch count will have increased to a total of 39. just slide these over here. So here's my last one. And you can see that it's just gradually getting a little bit wider, not too much. In rows 10, 11, and 12, you're going to need 39 bands for each one of those rows. So it's just going to be one single crochet into each one of your stitches. So I am just going to go ahead and let you do those 3 rows on your own, since it's pretty straightforward. And so you can pause your video, and I will see you back here soon. In row 13, we're going to do another increase. So I have a total of 41 yellow bands. And our increases are going to be on the 4th stitch, and then again on the 23rd stitch. So I'm starting out with my 3 single crochet. And then in that 4th stitch is where we're going to do our first increase. And then there are going to be 18 stitches that are in between here before we do our next increase. So I'll just count these. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, and 18. And then in the next stitch is where we're going to do our increase. So you should be right around the other side here. So that's 1, and back through for your increase. And then that should leave you with 16 stitches left. So I'm not going to count these. I feel like I'm really struggling with these rubber bands because they're really rubbery and they're not gliding against one another very smoothly. I usually prefer to use the Rainbow Loom brand, but I actually ran out of the yellow, so this is like an off-brand. And this pack is just particularly rubbery. So we are getting down towards the end. We don't have too many rows left to do. After this we're going to change to black to do the strap for the goggle or eye. I don't even know what exactly it is. I guess it's like a goggle. So I have 3 stitches left here. In rows 14 and 15 we're switching to black, and you're going to need 41 bands for each row. So I am just going to go ahead and let you do those on your own, but just remember to do a slip stitch. As a matter of fact, let me just do that one with you. So the very first one, since we're doing that color change, is to pull through everything, and then you can just continue on for the next 2 rows with black. In rows 16 and 17, we're switching back to yellow, and the stitch count will remain the same, so there's 41 bands for each row. Again, I'm going to let you do these on your own, but let me just show you the very first one is going to be that slip stitch. And then you're going to continue around for the next 2 rows with yellow. In row 18, you're going to need a total of 43 bands, so we are doing our very last increase, and it's going to happen on stitches 2 and then again on stitch 23. So we're beginning with just 1 single crochet, and then in that second stitch we're going to do our very first increase. And then there's going to be a total of 20 stitches in between before our next increase. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Let me just move these since they're getting messed up anyway. 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, and 20. So in the next stitch over, we're doing our increase, and then that should leave us with 18 stitches, working our way back to the clip. So again, I'm not going to bother to count these. So if you have your bands laid out, You should already have the correct number, or if not, you can just count these in your head. So this is actually our second to last row, and our next row is just going to be a solid yellow, and then the last things we have to do are to make the eye, and if you want to make some kind of a mouth or smile, I'll show you how to do that as well. I feel like I'm kind of struggling to fit this underneath. Probably looks a lot closer up to the camera since it's getting so large. Here's my last 3 stitches. Row 19 is our final row. You can see that it's all yellow, and the stitch count for this row is 43 since we did our increase on the last row, so that means you need 43 bands. So I'm just going to go ahead and let you do this final row on your own, so you can pause and do that now, and then I'll show you how to finish it off. When you've completed your 19th row, you do need to tie off the loose band. So you'll need 1 additional band for that, and what you're going to do is just go into the next stitch, and then you're going to pull this last band through everything, get the other end back on, pull one through the other, and make a nice and super tight slip knot. So then you can remove your clip, and you just want to hide this loop. So I'm just going to go in through a couple of the loops on the inside, and I'm going to grab this and just pull it underneath. The next thing that we're going to make are the eyes. So for that I'm going to do a magic ring of 3. So I have 4 black rubber bands. And I am going to be using a twist tie just to help me get the magic ring started, but that is optional. And then you will need a stitch marker or a clip. So I'm going to take my twist tie and put it right next to my hook. If you don't have this, you would just use your plain hook. And then I'm going to take my first band and triple this. So I'm just twisting and putting it back on till I have 3 loops. And then I'm going to fold my twist tie in half, and that's just going to help hold those 3 loops together. I'm going to pull through my first band, get the other end back on, and one through the other, and then back through from the front through those 3 loops, and I'm pulling through my second, one pulls through the other 2, and then back through one more time, and then I'm going to remove this twist tie. And it is a very small magic ring, so you're going to have to stretch this around as best as you can. Try and get it around pretty far, and then you're going to use your clip and put that on the band that's on your hook. In row 2 you'll need 9 white rubber bands, and we're going to be doing 3 single crochet into each one of our 3 stitches. So it is that small magic ring, so your stitch that you need to go to is going to be stretched pretty far over here. So you want to find that over here on the left and go under both loops from front to back. We're going to do a slip stitch since we're changing color, so I'm going through all. and then I'm going back under that same stitch for my second, and then back under one more time for my third. And then I'm moving to my next stitch now. You might want to stretch this out. It's a little bit hard to see where you're going under because it's so small, but just stretch all this out and then you should see your next stitch over here to the left. And again, we're doing 3, so that's 1, 2, and 3, and then the last stitch should be where your clip is. Make sure you're going under both loops, and again we have the 3. So there's 1, 2, and 3. And then I'm just going to move my clip. In row 3, you'll need a total of 14 white bands, and we are doing an increase in every other stitch. So you can see the pattern is 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, and so on. So here's where we left off, and let me just point out that it may look like this first little white is a stitch we need to go under, but it's actually not because we had done that slip stitch. So just ignore that. It's really this next one that we're going under, and you're doing 2 into this first one, and then 1 in the next, and then an increase, and a single, and so I'm just going to keep repeating that pattern because we want this to still grow, so that's why we're continuing to do an increase. And we started with an increase, and then in the very last stitch we're going to also end on an increase, just because there's an uneven number of stitches. So here's my last single, and then where my clip is, I have 2. Just going to move my stitch marker. And it is going to sort of curl inward, but you can just sort of take your fingers and sort of flatten this out, stretch it out, because we want it to be more flat. In row 4, we're changing to gray, and you'll need 41 bands. So the way that the pattern is, it's going to be 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, so it's an increase in every other. But if you look, the bands are basically doubled because we're doing a stitch of what I'm considering a half double crochet. So basically you need twice as many, except for at the start, and I'll show you that. So here's what we've been working on. You're going to that next stitch over. We're going to take our first band, and it's going to pull through everything. Do that slip stitch, and back on your hook. Then you're just going to leave those 2 loops in your finger, and go back through that same stitch for your second band. So then you'll have the 4 loops, and then the one at the top is going to pull through all. And if you hold this section and pull down on it as you're pulling your hook through, it's going to help it from getting hung up. So you're always going to have 2 loops left, and when you have 4 loops, that's when the upper one will pull through. So I'm moving over to my next stitch. I'll pull through 1 because this one's a single, so I have the 4 loops, and then the upper band is going to pull through all 4. Now in the next one I have a double, so the first one's going to come under, back on, so you have the 4 loops, and then the upper one's going to pull through all, and since I have 2 in this one, I'm going under that same stitch again, pull through my second band, and then that upper band pulls through all. So now I'm onto a single. So it's just that one, and then the upper band pulls through everything. So it may seem a little bit confusing at first, but I think once you do a couple you'll get the hang of it. So this is my first in this stitch, and then a second. So this is the half double crochet, and you can see that it's giving you that extra height than what a single would. And now this one is just one. Let me just slide these over. So I did this because I wanted the gray, which is the goggles, to be more outstanding here around the eye. I think it gives it a nice look. And now I have just one. So there's one, and here's my second. I think the hardest part is just trying not to get hung up as you're pulling the band through the other ones. So this is one. Actually, I think I just grabbed the wrong one from the pile. This one was supposed to be over here. And now I have two in this one. And one for this. So we're almost done here. In my second to last stitch here. So that's one. And two. And now in this very last one I have just a single. So I can now take my clip out, and I do need to close this off. So what I'm going to do is take the one end and pull it through the other to make a slip knot, and then I'm going to take my hook and I'm going to reach down through the back side here, through a couple of these bands, go inside, maybe like 2 or 3, and I'll take an additional gray band. I'm going to pull through everything and make a nice and tight slip knot, and then I'm going to reach inside here again, go inside a lot of these loops, and I'm just going to take my loose band here and just hide that. Next I'm going to attach the eye. So for that I'm going to use like 3 or 4 white bands and then 1 yellow. So first you need to figure out the placement. So you basically want it in the center of the black and in between the feet here. So once you're happy with the placement, you're just going to hold it with your fingers against, and then from the back you want to come up through the white section. So I'm going to push through both sections here, take my first white band, pull through to the back, and then I'm just going to move over, and I'm going to get the other side around my hook, and again pull through to the back, and then pull one through the other. And then I'm just going to come down and around here a little bit to the left in a counterclockwise direction, and take my second band. You want to make sure that you stay in the white part. I'm going to pull through the one on my hook, so I'm just left with one band on my hook, and then I'm going to come down, push out through, and again I want to pull this through to the back. If you sort of stretch this open, it sort of helps from the bands getting hung up on the other bands. You have your 2 bands on your hook and pull one through the other. And you can check out your placement here. So I think it needs to come down just a little bit. I'm going to, again, make sure this stays on my hook. I'm going to push out through towards the bottom of the white and pull through, one through the other, and then come over just slightly and get that other end through to the back, and then one through the other. Kind of twist it around here. Let me just take this off 1 second. I sort of have an extra loop in here. There we go. Now I can do one through the other. And let's see, I think I'll do, maybe I'll do 2 more here. So I want to come around to the right here, push out through, make sure I'm staying in the white section. Taking my next band, pull through to the back, and one through the other, come around, and grab the loop. And then that's probably on there pretty tight, but I think I'm going to do one more towards the top here. So I'll just push out, get my last white to go through, move over, and one through the other. So now I'm going to tie this off. So I'm just going to go through 1 or 2 bands right next to here, and I have my last band. I'm using yellow. Make that nice and tight slip knot, and then again, just like always, you're going to hide your loop. I mean, it's not like you're going to actually see the loop since it's going to be in the back, but you don't want loose bands hanging out for when you're sliding it on and off of your cup. The final thing that I need to do is to add my mouth. So I have 4 black bands and then I have 1 yellow to tie it off. So you may want a few more or less, it just depends on how large you want your mouth to be. So I'm going to find the center point here, so it's right about here, and then I want to go over 2 spaces and go slightly up. So I'm thinking either this one or maybe this one. So somewhere around there. And I'm going to pull this black band through to the back. And then I'm going to come up through, just diagonally down and to the right. Get the other side to go to the back, and then I'm going to do 1 band through the other. It looks like I got hung up here. Just unhook the yellow, and then 1 through the other. So leave that on my hook, and I'm going to come back up through that same opening that I just went out through, and pull through to the back. Again, I'm coming basically right over to the next spot, pull through, and I have the 3 loops on my hook. I'm just going to pull 1 through the other 2. Again, come back out that same opening there, and this next one's going to go straight across again. So pull through to the back, push out right next door. I have my 3 loops, so one through the other 2, and finally I'm going to push out again through that same one, and this time I want to go slightly upward here, so I pull through to the back, and then I'm going to go up a little bit, pull through, and then one through the other 2. And then the last thing I need to do is to tie this off. So I'm just going to go a little bit over since I have sort of a long piece of band left. I'm not going to go right next door, I'm going to go over a little bit. And I'm just going to tie this off nice and tight, and then hide this loop. So you can see here how this separated just a little bit. So what you can do is just use your hook and try and get them to be right next to one another. So I want this yellow to come down a little. Same thing over here. Just lift this up and push that down, just so it gives a solid black there. And my minion is complete. I hope that everyone loves their new Minion Cup Cozies. You can always leave me comments on YouTube and Facebook. You can post pictures of your creations to my Facebook page. I really love to see what everyone's working on. And please feel free to subscribe so you can stay up to date on my latest tutorials. You can also find me on Pinterest and Instagram, so please share your pictures and comments there too, and feel free to subscribe to those as well. Thanks for watching!